welcome to the Incredible Hulk podcast.
Rawr!
Yes, indeed. And we are talking about the season 3 story called Falling Angels. Yes. Which starred, of course, our beloved Bill Bixby as Dr. David Banner, Mighty Lou Ferrigno as the Incredible Hulk, and Jack Colvin as Jack McGee. Co-starring Annette Charles as Rita, Debbie Morgan as Jodie, Cindy Fisher as Mickey, and Anthony Herrera as Don, the horrible budder. It was written by Eric Kaldor and D.K. Kreisman, I think it is, and directed by Barry Crane. And to talk about this story is none other than my friends here. Sue and Alex, how are you both?
Good.
Yeah, same.
Great. Now this one opens literally up and starts the story right off the bat. You know, literally David's involved right from the moment he gets off the bus. He arrives in town, gets off this bus, and within seconds he's bumped into and knocked off his feet by two teenage girls, which are Jodie and Mickey. And they say sorry and they run off. And in the chaos, they've dropped this locket. David's like says, "Oh, I better go after them and give it to them," you know. And so, all this is happening really rapidly. We're getting introduced to characters, the place where they live. So he goes down to the place, and it's called Chelsea Heights Home for Girls, and it's an orphanage. You find out.
Yeah, and it's spelled funny. It's not spelled like Chelsea.
As in football.
the city that we live in Massachusetts, or Chelsea, the part of London. It's spelled with a Y.
Yeah, Chelsey instead of Chelseaa. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's instantly, in your face. And the other thing that's in your face is when they talk about the lady who runs the Chelsea Heights School or Home for Girls. It's Miss Winters, and that's kind of like a throw to Dark Shadows, because there was a Miss Winters who was taking care of the Collins kids.
Oh, yeah, so it's possible. It's possible that the writer, may have written for Dark Shadows, or may have been a fan of it.
Yeah, I don't know, but that name, Miss Winters, was like, oh, Dark Shadows. Anyway.
And actually, one of the actresses from Dark Shadows was in a Hulk episode, Catherine Lee Scott.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. She played one of the Collins, didn't she? I can't remember which one now. But anyway, yeah, she was in one of those, yeah. And she was called Collins in that, I think, as well. I think they actually... So it was named deliberately after the Dark Shadows character. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so we're introduced to Rita, who's like the head of the place, and he hands back the locket, David, and the two girls are there, and Rita says, "Oh, I'm having trouble with my boiler, so to speak," and so she said, "Would you mind having a look at it? Because you need a man around the place, And so David said, "Well, I don't know anything much about them, but I'll have a look." And this guy comes out who ends up being like the sleazeball of the show, a guy called Don, and he's talking to her and that, and he says, "Who's this fella here?" So it's David and stuff. He's trying to fix our boiler. Ah, well, why don't you hire him? Because we need an extra pair of hands around and stuff like that. So he ends up getting hired, but you can see that Rita's a bit uncomfortable about the whole thing, because she doesn't really want anyone else involved, as it were, because as we find out what they're up to a scam, and so she doesn't really want another a pair of eyes and ears hanging around in case they find things out. Anyway,
The scam was interesting. The scam was interesting. It came from. It was like there was a part of the scam that was pickpocket. Part of the scam was the girls would while they were fundraising for the orphanage, they would also be fundraising for Don. They would break into safes and things.
Yeah, that's right. They were, and they were very good at it too. But they the sort of streetwise kids type, which is what they were, very much so. Anyway, David's hired, so he's like sort of like a handyman, and he stuff like that. And Jodie later on chats with David. They have like a little chat and about living in the orphanage, and David saying, that he would be the last to get chosen when he was a kid in sports or things like that, and he felt always slightly excluded from the action. And Jodie's saying a similar thing, she gets left out and gets, left on sidelines. And you see David getting quite teary-eyed about the whole thing. Don has his hands all over Rita and in front of the girls, which is not, pretty tacky, I think. This is when we see them both doing this little trial run of opening the safe. They've got this little safe that he's brought in, and he's trying.
They have this cool instrument.
Yeah.
That helps crack the.
And like when they're turning the button, the dial on the safe, it's like it lights up when they get the right number, doesn't it? Like little light goes on.
Yeah.
And when they get 3 lights, it opens. And he's timing it on a stopwatch, and they're very, but both of them are really slick at what they're doing. They definitely have a lot of experience in this. And right in the time he did, they opened the box and he stops the watch, and that's fantastic, great work. You taught them well and all that, But Rita's really not happy with him being around, You can see he's making her skin crawl when he's advancing on her, and they're going to make us a lot of money, He said, we got this thing, later on this week or tonight or whenever it was, this charity auction at this rich woman's house to raise funds for the orphanage. And they're going to do a safe break there and take all the jewels that she's got hidden there and everything like that. So they're planning this, this heist, as it were, at this woman's house. And so they're being prepped for that, really, But anyway, she's kind of unwittingly going along with the whole thing. She cares deeply for the girls, but really doesn't really want to know him at all. But I guess he's just a means of a way out at the moment, out of their predicament, because they're not making much money at the orphanage. So therefore, she has to turn to crime.
They performed. Well, first of all, David was outside of the store, sitting there buying some products for probably the pump or whatever it was fixing thing, and he notices the girls rip off this guy's wallet, and first of all, he takes off after them, and then they sneak behind this building, and then he runs into a couple of
the guys that are throwing the trash away, aren't they?
They're sanitation workers.
Oh, yeah,
and they had grabbed the girls, and David got all in the middle of that, and they were talking about the wallet, and then they were just like, "Well, we're just going to call the police." And then David's like, "Heck no!" And the girls are like, "Heck no!" and so he gets. They try to detain him by throwing him in a dumpster, and he gets eaten by a bunch of rats, and he turns into the Hulk. Rawr! So that's the first Hulk out, and he's like not letting any of this go. I'm glad that
the bit where he attacks one of the trash guys, the trash man, sanitary man, you call him, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. And then he pushes the truck
down the, and it starts tumbling backwards down the alleyway, and the guy gets.
And then it runs over him.
No, he doesn't run over him. The guy's on top. He climbs up the top of it.
Oh yeah.
Get away from the Hulk, because when he shunts the thing, the guy ends up falling backwards into all the trash.
Into the hopper, yeah, and then he runs into, and then he runs the truck. He pushes the truck, and the truck hits the power pole.
Hits a power pole. That's right. Yeah.
And then it bounces him again in the trash.
And so he's running down the street, and there's a little comedy moment here with this guy called George, who's on the public phone.
Oh my God! And the music got weird there.
And he's talking.
It went from like super funk to like these bleep, 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 and I was like, "What the world?" And Alex mentioned that too. Here, talk about the music, baby.
Yeah, I really thought the music was really strange. I don't know. They had some good actors in this episode, and the Hulk outs were amusing, but I don't know if they were trying to be too city-like or urban or whatever it was, because I noticed that then the other people at the house party or the fundraising party seemed very, fish out of water. It's like, even though it was funny that the old woman with all the jewels said, he could have at least used the door. But, I mean, after that, it was kind of, a little bit silly in my opinion. I can understand, too, that, this is one of Debbie Morgan's first acting jobs, and then she became really big on All My Children, the TV soap opera in America, and Charmed when that first came out in the 90s. She was really big on that show as a villain. And you know what I mean? But it's just like a lot of it I could have, done without seeing this episode. I understand they were trying and everything, but I was just like, this is boring me a little bit.
The bit where the guy's on the phone, just to backtrack a wee bit there, because we've sort of raced ahead again. We've got the Hulk. He's talking to the wife, and it sounds like he's a bit of a, the wife is definitely a stronger character than him. He's quite a weak kind of guy, Yes, ma'am, or yes, love, no love, And I've run out of money. All right, what's the number? I'll call you back, she says, and hangs up.
Yeah.
The Hulk's coming towards him, and he legs it down the street. And then and as he comes by, the phone rings back, and it's the wife. The guy getting Yeah, that was a little weird, too. I was kind of like, okay, guys, so you try to show that the city has, people that are always in a bad mood? Because I don't need the TV show to show me that, I can tell. I live in the city. I know some people are always in a bad mood, so. Anyway, she pisses the Hulk off, and he trashes the phone.
I know.
Yeah.
That was funny in a way, but it was also weird. It was like, okay, guys, I got it. In the big city, everybody's in a bad mood and looking out for number one. But it was kind of like I didn't really see why they had to include that in, even if it was, half comical. I'm just like, so I don't know. I think I can tell what they were trying to do. They were trying to be city-like, but it's kind of like, okay. And I didn't understand why the sanitation workers were so hell-bent on arresting the girls and David. It's like, I could understand in the story if they had done it beforehand, but it was kind of like jarring, so.
So it's like, it's sort of like pigeonholing them, like the guy says, because McGee shows up. That's right. McGee shows up and he's quizzing the two sanitary guys about the Hulk thing, One of the guys says, I bet they're from that orphanage. There's nothing but trouble there, So in a sense, he's kind of like pigeonholing people into saying that everyone who's down the luck and is an orphan, obviously, is on on the other side of the wrong side of the law.
Yeah.
So it's kind of clichéing things a bit. But that tips McGee off to go to visit the house. He said it's only a few blocks from here. So it happens that David and the gang are in a little van, and they go out to get supplies, for that auction. So therefore, they're just leaving as McGee arrives, and he goes wandering around, and they're not there, and he speaks to those two guys who come into the story later on, the guys that are erecting this sort of marquee thing out the back or something, or maybe that's the other place. So, that's the other place, I think. Yeah, there's no one there, so he says, "There's no one here. You may as well not hang around." And you see this this thing. What do you call them? It's like a generator thing. That thing that's chugging. The little engine thing. And it's like a purifier thing.
It's a pump. It's like an air compressor or a pump. And then they load a bunch of. It's sort of what they use for like airbrushing or air painting homes. And they load all the paint in the top of that hopper, another hopper.
Another one, yeah.
And they load it all in that, and then it sprays out paint. The trouble is like if it's they loaded it with a bunch of noxious chemicals.
Yeah, it was like the stuff they use to fumigate places where they got bugs in them or something.
Yeah,
and they were using it to that, weren't they? They were pouring.
Yeah, when I do fumigation or whatever of places, I have an industrial strength respirator mask.
It's a very plush mansion, by the way, this woman's got. And Rita's there, and she's talking to like this little news crew about the auction and raising, much needed funds for the home and the orphans under her care. So David's there as well, obviously, because he drove the girls. He's picking up he's bringing supplies in there or something, and he notices the two girls slipping away upstairs. He's going, aye, what's going on here? So he ends up pursuing them. And lo and behold, they're in this room, and there's a safe in there, and they're doing what they did earlier on. They're cracking the code with that little machine thing. And presto, they open the door of the safe, and there's all these jewels in there, like pearls and diamonds and everything. And they're emptying them out, and David's standing by the door. Gotcha. So
it wasn't like he was pissed off at the girls.
No, he was just like like that,
Yeah.
Can you please explain what you're up to here?
And so the girls didn't really explain.
No, but he went to Rita. Rita told him, didn't she? Sort of thing. Well, initially she actually says, like keep your nose out of it, at the beginning, she says, "Look, don't pry where it doesn't concern you." Later, she apologizes for her how she spoke to David, and she actually admits that she spent previous time in prison, and doesn't want to go back there. Obviously, she says that she wants to pull this off.
And that's her name, and
she says her name, and I can't remember it now, but her real name's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so then they've got he's got her sort of in a hard place, but he makes the suggestion that if it is this guy Don that's like causing all of this havoc in her life, that maybe she can back out of this deal by like planting the jewels on him. And that he can just sit by the phone in the other place and wait for her call.
Yeah,
and then
that's
he
a good.
called the police.
That's a good little idea they do there, which of course ultimately doesn't go. Well, initially it doesn't go very well, but ultimately in the end it does. But it kind of backfires on them a bit, because it obviously causes David to be in trouble. But they do it very well. They cause a bit of a distraction with the posh lady there and that, and successfully drop these diamonds and stuff into his pockets without him noticing. One of the girls says later on, she says, "What if he checks his pockets? We're doomed," But that doesn't happen. But anyway, so they pulled that off really well.
So she makes a call.
She makes a call to David. It rings once, she hangs up, so it's like his cue kind of thing.
Right.
And he's
trying to call the police, but these other guys come in and they beat him up and throw him down in the
what is it? A garage?
Inside the pump room.
Yeah, room. Yeah, some sort of
in the pump room, and then they put a hose through the wall or through the door or whatever, and David is unconscious and he's in this room and he's kind of sealed up in there, and then they fill up the hopper and they start up the machine and it starts pouring noxious chemicals into this room.
Now, interestingly, as that's going on, we get a really rare moment here, which I don't think has ever been done since. I mean, it's only a little moment, and it won't light up your world or anything, but it's interesting none the least. McGee, I think, is in the room adjacent to it or something, snooping around.
Yeah.
And he spots David's famous duffel bag.
Yeah.
And he's about to open it and have a look inside. You think, is he going to find him out, his identity?
No, but he does dig through the bag.
He digs through, but the Hulk out happens at the same moment, kind of thing. And due to the Hulk crashing out of the back, out through the door, it distracts him. So he turns away from the bag and goes looking out, sees the Hulk out there. But I'm just thinking, had he read some of those things, he may have found out who David was. That it was David. David.
Yeah, but he was looking for everything, and so he was also looking through all the papers that were there on the desk from the orphanage.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had like a glut of information, and he was not. He decided he wasn't gonna. Once he heard the Hulk, he's like, "Oh wow, this is what I live for," and he just went running out after him.
Yeah, that was his cue. Yeah, he loves that. So he's out there in hot pursuit again, and the Hulk, of course, sorts out the two fellas and sends them flying, and he heads for the mansion house where the auction is, followed very, very, not very far behind by McGee in his car. So he's desperate to get there. You see how desperate he gets. I've got to follow this. It's so important. So he's on the race after the Hulk. But, of course, the Hulk gets there first and smashes through the bay doors or wherever they are, and to the shock of the ensemble. And that's when I think she says, to McGee, when McGee does get there, she says, as Alex said earlier on, the woman says, "You could have at least used the door, open the door instead of smashing through it."
Yep.
But, the Hulk's not subtle like that,
Nope, not subtle, and definitely cannot be bothered with a door or a wall. Won't find the path of least resistance, always chooses the path of highest resistance. Chases bad guys, pushes trucks. He's just he's not an intellectual, like a work smart, not work hard. He's a work hard, not work smart kind of superhero. And I appreciate that about Hulk.
Yeah, I absolutely, yeah. So anyway, he sorts out Don. So And of course, in the meantime, Rita's called the police, and or the old dear did. I can't remember who, but anyway, someone did. And
she told somebody in the party to call the police.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they were called, and they were really close, actually. So it was cool.
Yeah, but the Hulk, as soon as he hits the sirens, that's his cue to get out of there. He never hangs around for the cops.
Right, and he was like, the old lady found, especially Don being on the ground, and all of her jewels falling out of his pockets. He's caught basically red-handed, which he really was. He didn't think that he'd ever be implicated in this scheme, but there it is. The evidence is right there.
Yeah, he's been well banged to rights, they say. Yeah, and it's always nice to see that the rotter of the piece get its just desserts.
Yeah, I agree.
And they always do in the end. In these stories. So anyway, all ends well there. And a little later on, David's preparing to leave, and he's waiting on a little bench to catch the bus, as he did. He's leaving as he came in, and Jodie comes to see him, and
Jodie just kind of begs him, please let me go with you. I just, you need somebody to hang out with you. I need somebody to hang out with me. It's got to be better than this. And so.
And she brings his duffel bag back for him as well, which is rather nice,
Yeah.
She said you had to dodge McGee to get it. She said he's still snooping around the house. It's kind of touching in a way. But obviously with David's background and what happens to him, he can't be responsible for having her with him as well. He can't be her guardian or anything like that. And
the Hulk isn't a really good daddy yet.
No, he hasn't got daddy skills.
I think that after the Infinity, the situation with what's going on in the MCU movies right now, the Hulk may turn into a good daddy figure for somebody. I'd say he'd be a good one for the daughter of Thanos. What's her name? The one played by Lieutenant Uhura. Anyway. He'd be a good daddy for her because they're both amazing superheroes, and they neither of them need a lot of supervision. But as a kid, as a father for a kid, no, Hulk is not that kind of guy.
He'd be good at protecting them in moments of danger, but he wouldn't be able to sort of like have a father and daughter sit down talk.
Yeah. You're in trouble now.
So how was your day at school? And he wouldn't be able to relate really. Yeah. And he wouldn't be able to help.
Oh my gosh, that boy tried to kiss you. Hulk smash!
Yeah.
Lou Ferrigno's there going roar.
Yeah, but that's all we'd be able to do. But I mean, if she's like saying, Dad, can you help us with some homework? I'm a bit stuck on this question about maths. He'd be slightly, stuck, I would think. Yeah.
Let me calm down first.
So that was Fallen Angels. Yeah. And they weren't fallen anymore. They were rising angels by the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was all worried that this would be like some kind of, throw to Charlie's Angels. Well, these were all, crazy girls, super. And then I took them away from all that. No, I was impressed. Frank, the music in this story was way too weird. It wasn't normal Hulk music, and it wasn't super funky 70s music. It was, there was a bit of almost 8-bit tunes, and it was just too weird.
Yeah, I heard a couple of little bits of 70s synthesizer in there as well at some point.
Yeah, it was weird.
So Alex, you loved it, didn't you, this episode? Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that. Like I said, the music was weird. I guess they were trying to, make it very city-like. I mean, just a lot of it I didn't like. It didn't seem to have enough story. I mean, and then the other issue was the fact that Debbie Morgan's character had a huge guilt complex as well, and it's kind of like, I almost was grateful at the end, even though she was right to return his money. Not that she stole it, but she found it. I guess when he was in that room where the poison was being pumped in. She kind of added a little bit of jive there too, and I was kind of like, okay, was that to, prove that she's still a sister? She's still alliance with the black people. So it's kind of like, yeah, if I had seen that script, I would have said, yeah, characters here aren't very well developed, and it seemed to be just a plot device kind of thing. So if it was up to me, I probably would have said, yeah, either rewrite this or, don't film it at all. But I think that was the other issue too, that, in the late 60s, early 70s, and late 70s, I think they were trying to, fight that stereotype of, oh, it's TV, therefore it isn't very gritty or realistic or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think they might have added this to try to say, well, he's not as suburban as he seems or whatever. So it just, I like some of the actors, but it was very plot-driven, plot arranged.
So anyway, guys, that is the story. We're pretty much wrapping it up now. So I'd like to thank, obviously, my friends for being here and talking about this. And that, of course, is Alex and Sue. Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we will, of course, be back with another incredible hot podcast very soon indeed. So until then, guys, don't hold out.